We've made it. Today is Friday, and today's the last day of our lessons. Instead of looking at drawing conclusions and making inferences, I want to talk about why we draw conclusions and make inferences, but then we're going to move into a writing topic. So I'm going to start my screen sharing so that we can get started. But as a reminder, drawing conclusions and making inferences help readers interact at a deeper level with the text, and it helps us gain new understanding and new insights from the text. This is really important, although it can sometimes be challenging. We have to look at what the author is saying, both explicitly, which is directly there in the text, and then implicitly, which is kind of hinted or suggested at. I also have to do things where I'm like, when I'm drawing conclusions, like taking multiple details from the text from multiple places to draw a conclusion and to come up with a new idea. And when I think about inferences, I want to think about that rhyme. I read, I know, and so. And inferences, we do this every single day. And so although it feels weird at first, with practice, you'll be able to do it extremely well with text. That I am confident about. So today's Friday. Today's the last day. Our learning target for the day is I can write a piece of narrative text and establish a central idea while maintaining an organized structure. Before we get started, we have to talk about some writing concepts. So a central idea, what is a central idea? Well, this is what your writing is mostly about. And writers want to keep the main thing by staying on topic. This is, if I start talking about basketball and I'm writing about basketball, I don't want to veer off topic and then start talking about why my favorite food is pizza. The organizational pattern is how the writing is organized. Common patterns are descriptive, sequential, which means they go in order, chronological, meaning by time or date, and cause effect. We're going to use a mentor text and copy her technique of descriptive and sequential pattern. And lastly, expository text. Expository text is an informational text that explains information about a topic. The main purpose of expository text is to inform and explain. Our text today is going to be a little bit of a combination between expository text and narrative text, because although we are informing and explaining about certain topics, these are extremely personal topics. So for our pre-writing exercise, there are some questions that I want you to notice, or excuse me, I want you to think about while we're looking at a mentor text. So first of all, what do you notice about what the author is writing about? What do you notice about the organization of the piece of writing? What do you notice about how the author writes? Or what does she include or not include? And then what other details do you notice? You will need a copy of the mentor text that's linked in the lesson. The one thing that I think that you notice is that she's writing about her personal life and has a word that begins with each letter. I think this word must have some meaning to her life and is important in some way. Our second question. The piece is organized in a descriptive, sequential way. Each entry follows the order of the alphabet. She then describes each entry and what the word or person means to her. 3, she's included short, meaningful details about each topic. She also remains on topic. She keeps the main thing. And then lastly, I noticed that each entry is a different length. Some entries have 2 paragraphs, while others have 1. I also noticed that in these examples, she doesn't have an entry for every letter of the alphabet. I wonder if this is because she couldn't think of anything to write for some of the letters. So we're going to do this, but I'm going to model for you my thinking while I'm writing it. So this is the encyclopedia entry for Mrs. Fleming. So as I think about the alphabet, the first letter that I think about is A, because it's the beginning of the alphabet, but Albany comes to mind when I think of the letter A. So Albany, New York, let's see. Albany, New York I lived in Albany 2 times when I was growing up. The first time that I lived there, I was in 5th grade, I believe, or 4th grade. And then my family moved to Syracuse, New York, where I spent the majority of my high school career. And then we moved back to Albany after I graduated from high school. So when I think about Albany, I think about 2 homes. being surrounded by the Adirondack and the Catskill Mountains. So I'm going to say my family lived in Albany twice while growing up, while I was growing up. How's that? Once when I was in grade school, and the other time was when I was in college. Both of my houses were surrounded by mountains. Albany is also where I got my first waitressing job and where I learned how important it was to look like I was busy at a job, even if I wasn't. And I'm going to go ahead and bold each of my entries. And you can see that I have like some misspellings and things like that, but right now I'm not worried about my misspellings and I'm not worried about my sentence structure. I just want to get some things down on the paper so then I can go back and play with it later. When I think about B, I think about boys. And the reason why I think about the boys is I'm going to say boys, comma, the. When I think about the boys, I'm not referring to boys that I liked in school. I'm thinking about my brothers. So Chris, the middle child, and Jeff, the youngest, were always in the picture. I don't remember one time in my life when my brothers were not there. When we were younger, we were as thick as thieves. As we got older, the boys became closer and I drifted apart. At one time, I actually remember that somebody confused me for being a twin with my brother Chris because he and I look so much alike, but I'm a year and a half older than him, and the person confused me for a boy because I had a haircut very similar to the one that I have now, but he thought it looked too masculine, and he confused me for a boy as opposed to being female. All right, I'm going to try to do one more. So when I think about C, I can't really think of anything for C right now off the top of my head without spending a lot of time. So I'm going to do donuts for D. Donuts. Donuts. I love donuts. And I put that in all caps because that is so true. I love donuts. When I was younger, that was the fastest way I would jump out of bed in the morning. My dad would say, Diane, we got donuts for breakfast. And growing up, we always got our donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, and I thought that Dunkin' Donuts were the best donuts around. I now know that that is not the case. However, when I was younger, I did not realize or appreciate the power of a really good donut. As soon as he said this, I jumped, and I really did jump out of bed and ran to the kitchen, trying to claim my favorite kind, glazed. Now, I will say that now that I'm older and that I appreciate donuts so much more than what I did when I was old, when I was younger, I have come to find many other donut styles that I love. Here's what I would like you to notice. One, First of all, you can see that I didn't start with a C because I couldn't think of anything. 2, my sentences are and my entries vary in length. Some of my sentences, like in donuts, are just one word, and I have some that are in all caps. And I have various sentence lengths. Some are long and some are short. 3, I keep the main thing the main thing. So when I talk about donuts, I'm only talking about donuts. I'm not talking about my competition with my brothers, how I drifted away from my brothers. I'm really just talking about a memory or an association that I have with that thing. And 4, it's okay if the entries are short. They're meant to be. They're meant to be like little encyclopedia entries. And in the encyclopedia, you have some entries that are very short and you have some that are long. If you look at the mentor text, you can see that hers were varied between very short and very long as well. Here's what I would like you to do. I want you to try it. So I want you to open a Google Doc and try experimenting with 2 or 3 encyclopedia entries for yourself. If you get stuck, it's okay. Just keep moving forward or try a different letter. Notice that like when I couldn't think of anything for the letter C, I just let it go and I kept writing. Also know that I didn't go back and I didn't correct grammar, or I didn't correct sentence structure, because it's okay to just get something down on a piece of paper and write for writing's sake, and then go back and look at revision and look at the editing process at a later time. If you need help, email me. I am happy to help. My email is going to be listed at the very end of this slideshow, and I would love for you to reach out and share your writings with me. I've had a good time this week, and I hope that you were able to take away something from this week as well. I wish you the best, and I hope you have a great summer. Have a good day.